I was thinking about that frog, you know, the one that's in a big pan of water and it's on very, very small amount of heat on the old gas ring. And very, very slowly, the frog is being boiled alive. We mention it all the time, don't we, in reference to things that are going on at the moment. And it's interesting when you think about that frog and he's not noticing that the temperature of the water is getting hotter and hotter until it's so hot that he either passes out or starts to panic because he realizes too late what's going on. And it's that sense of, oh, it's just normal. The temperature is cold, and then very slowly, weeks later, it's tepid, and then weeks later, it's warm. And because he doesn't notice the change, he just thinks, oh, it's normal. It's normal for the water to be cold. Later on, it's normal for the water to be warm. And he hasn't really noticed the change, perhaps. Or if he has, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter too much because it's incremental. And he cannot really conceive that the water is going to get that much hotter or uncomfortable for him. Now, of course, there are some people in this world who have been observing things and going, hang on a minute, this is a bit strange. But I think even now there are people who've been watching, say, videos like mine, people's like, I don't know, Neil Oliver, and a whole terrain of other videos which have come up. And in the end, people are scrolling from one video that's telling them some terrible news is about to happen. Could be about chemtrails, which actually the government admit they're doing. I saw a screenshot actually in Wales earlier today. I'll put it on the screen. It says that it's going. Or it might be the fact that, I don't know, governments are indeed corporations and they're not really there voted by the people as an administration for the people, but they are for-profit administrations. And again, I saw a screenshot somebody showed me that the government had actually, well, it had been dissolved. The company had just vanished and a new one was going to set up. And even though this is mentioned, I think if people just watch these videos and they think to themselves, oh, that's interesting, or they're outraged, then they watch another one and that's interesting, or they're outraged and they watch another one, interesting, outrage, anger, and another, until it becomes just normal to sit there and go, oh yes, I'm going to be outraged today. It's just normal. Even though stuff is happening incrementally, things are happening to us. Oh, there's more cameras in the supermarket. There's more cameras in the street. The noise from the ambulances that keep coming up and down the road have increased. But they've increased incrementally so that it's normal. Oh, they're cutting down the trees over there. They're building more houses. Oh, well, we need houses, don't we? Until the countryside is ever shrinking. And farmers are not producing the amount of food that they perhaps ought to, or the type of food that they should, or the supermarkets are providing more and more highly processed foods, or the water it's got stuff in it that's not actually very healthy, but it's normal. Isn't it? There's a sort of sense that everything's okay when it's normal, to the point that we really and truly, we don't notice that we are that frog slowly rising in temperature in a water that is getting hotter and hotter because it's incremental. It's normal. But it isn't really normal. It isn't normal that we're getting the tension happening, that more and more people are dying every day. And they didn't used to do that, but it was after a certain medical intervention that everybody was mandated into having, pretty much, or persuaded. And that sort of sense that if you say something that other people disagree with, oh no, we'll shut you down. That's all normal. And I just kind of started to think, what kind of life is it that we're acquiescing to? What kind of life is it that we're just considering is normal? We are we not, being corralled, if you like, into a world of ever more limitations, ever more asking for permissions, ever more living in this corporate Britain. I attended a course the other day. I was very kindly invited to attend a course with Sovereign Pete. And he was talking about sovereignty, about taking back the responsibility that you are your own court, you are your own law, that actually if you do no harm to others, you don't need half the time so many of these rules. You might have guidelines, or you might agree as a bunch of people trying to live together on certain things, and you say, well, actually, if I do no harm to you and I respect your limits and I respect your abilities, then we could get along quite happily. But do I need to have cameras in the supermarket spying on me? Do I need to have cameras on the gantries on motorways if I happen to go a couple of miles an hour above a certain speed limit? And who sets the speed limit? And how do they know what's good for me? And why is, for example, 20 miles an hour now a perceived thing? And who really is saying that I should abide by a policy of net zero? Why should people come after my wood-burning stove, for example, when actually, if you're burning wood and I'm buying it from the local economy and putting my money into the local economy rather than, say, the big 6 corporations that are wanting to supply electricity, if I'm putting it into the local economy and burning up the logs and wood that is being chopped down, which is a renewable product and can be grown again, and it is good for the environment. Why also, if those particulates that are going up that people say, oh, but they're bad for you, and yet actually the ash, of course, the product of the burnt wood, is something that goes into fertilizer that helps plants grow, and that actually CO2 that's coming out of the chimney also helps plants grow, that it's actually helping the planet rather than not. It is a strange thing. Oh, no, it becomes normal to hate people who are doing something perhaps that is a bit different to what the government and what society wants us to do, because it becomes normal. And it does seem that normalisation of things that we before thought were pretty normal in themselves. We used to think that a mum and a dad and a couple of children was the norm, and yet now we're told, of course, that men can be women and women can be men. People are quite happy to bring up one-parent families, and that's normal. Now, whilst I have no problem with anybody wanting to pretend, if they're a man, that they're a woman and dress up and all of that, or if they want to have no partner and adopt a child and be a one-parent family, I have no qualms with any of that. Of course, I'm happy for people to be happy and to try and fulfill their wishes and their needs. Why wouldn't I be? But I wouldn't say that was normal. I mean, history, tradition and custom shows us that that isn't normal, but it does seem that normal is being changed, the new normal. You know, after that pandemic, we were told there's going to be a new normal. Well, who's changing the normal? Who's setting the agenda? Who's saying that we have to have this new normal? Who, effectively, is turning up the gas on that frog incrementally so that the frog inside realises it's normal? And maybe that we have allowed that to happen because we're too busy taking our advice and our sense of what's going on in the world from things like the mainstream media, for example. We're not challenging things anymore. We're taking our sense of what's right and proper, perhaps from the schooling that we're having, from the corporations who employ us, who say, here's our set of policies and we want you to agree to them and acquiesce to them, until whatever somebody else has decided is now the new normal. But is it normal? It's only normal if you accept, if everybody agrees that actually we'll all have a smart meter, we'll all get rid of our cars, we'll all put chains round us, we'll all eat bugs, we'll all acquiesce to whatever the government wants and not leave and stay in front of these big screens, we'll all drink poisoned water, we'll all permit the skies to be filled with chemtrails and all sorts of heavy metals rain down upon us, we'll all accept perhaps the next medical information, or we'll have a booster because it's normal. It's normal to do so. But what is normal? Is normal a good thing? Or is normal really us not using our minds and our thoughts and critical thinking and actually thinking, hang on a second, this might be what everybody else is doing, but is it really good? Should I be doing it? And is it normal for me?